Welcome. Today April 7th in history. 451 Attila the Hun captures Metz in France, killing most of its inhabitants and burning the town. 529 First Corpus Juris Civilis, a fundamental work in jurisprudence, is issued by Eastern Roman Emperor Justinian I. 1141 Empress Matilda becomes the first female ruler of England, adopting the title, Lady of the English. 1449 Felix V abdicates his claim to the papacy, ending the reign of the final antipope. 1541 Francis Xavier leaves Lisbon on a mission to the Portuguese East Indies. 1767 End of Burmese-Siamese War, 1765–1767. 1788 Settlers establish Marietta, Ohio, the first permanent settlement created by U.S. citizens in the recently organized Northwest Territory. 1795 The French First Republic adopts the kilogram and gram as its primary unit of mass. 1790 Greek War of Independence. Greek revolutionary Lambros Katsonis loses 3 of his ships in the Battle of Andros. 1805 Lewis and Clark Expedition. The Corps of Discovery breaks camp among the Mandan tribe and resumes its journey west along the Missouri River. 1805 German composer Ludwig van Beethoven premieres his Third Symphony, at the Theater an der Wien in Vienna. 1831 Pedro II becomes Emperor of Empire of Brazil. 1862 American Civil War. The Union's Army of the Tennessee and the Army of the Ohio defeat the Confederate Army of Mississippi near Shiloh, Tennessee. 1868 Thomas D'Arcy McGee, one of the Canadian Fathers of Confederation, is assassinated by a Fenian activist. 1906 Mount Vesuvius erupts and devastates Naples. 1906 The Algeciras Conference gives France and Spain control over Morocco. 1922 Teapot Dome Scandal. United States Secretary of the Interior Albert B. Fall leases federal petroleum reserves to private oil companies on excessively generous terms. 1926 Violet Gibson attempts to assassinate Italian Prime Minister Benito Mussolini. 1927 AT&T transmits the first long-distance public television broadcast, from Washington, D.C., to New York City, displaying the image of Commerce Secretary Herbert Hoover. 1933 Nazi Germany issues the law for the restoration of the professional civil service banning Jews and political dissidents from civil service posts. 1939 Benito Mussolini declares an Italian protectorate over Albania and forces King Zog I into exile. 1940 Booker T. Washington becomes the first African American to be depicted on a United States postage stamp. 1943 The Holocaust in Ukraine. In Terebovlia, Germans order 1,100 Jews to undress and march through the city to the nearby village of Plebanivka, where they are shot and buried in ditches. 1943 Ioannis Rallis becomes collaborationist Prime Minister of Greece during the Axis occupation. 1943 The National Football League makes helmets mandatory. 1945 World War II. The Imperial Japanese Navy battleship Yamato, one of the 2 largest ever constructed, is sunk by United States Navy aircraft during Operation 10 Go. 1946 The Soviet Union annexes East Prussia as the Kaliningrad Oblast of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. 1954 United States President Dwight D. Eisenhower gives his «domino theory» speech during a news conference. 1955 Winston Churchill resigns as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom amid indications of failing health. 1956 Francoist Spain agrees to surrender its protectorate in Morocco. 1964 IBM announces the System 360. 1965 Representatives of the National Congress of American Indians testify before members of the U.S. Senate in Washington, D.C. against the termination of the Colville tribe. 1968 Two-time Formula One British world champion Jim Clark dies in an accident during a Formula 2 race in Hockenheim. 1969 The Internet's symbolic birthdate, publication of RFC 1. 1971 Vietnam War. President Richard Nixon announces his decision to quicken the pace of Vietnamization. 1972 Vietnam War. Communist forces overrun the South Vietnamese town of Loc Ninh. 1977 German federal prosecutor Siegfried Buback and his driver are shot by 2 Red Army faction members while waiting at a red light. 1980 During the Iran hostage crisis, the United States severs relations with Iran. 1982 Iranian Foreign Affairs Minister Sadegh Ghotbzadeh is arrested. 1983 during STS-6, astronauts Story Musgrave and Don Peterson perform the first Space Shuttle spacewalk. 1988 Soviet Defense Minister Dmitry Yazov orders the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan. 1989 Soviet submarine Komsomolets sinks in the Barents Sea off the coast of Norway, killing 42 sailors. 1990 A fire breaks out on the passenger ferry Scandinavian Star, killing 159 people. 1990 John Poindexter is convicted for his role in the Iran-Contra affair. In 1991 the convictions are reversed on appeal. 1994 Rwandan genocide. Massacres of Tutsis begin in Kigali, Rwanda, and soldiers kill the civilian Prime Minister Agatha Uwilingiyimana. 1994 Auburn Callaway attempts to destroy Federal Express Flight 705 in order to allow his family to benefit from his life insurance policy. 1995 First Chechen War. Russian paramilitary troops begin a massacre of civilians in Samashki, Chechnya. 1999 Turkish Airlines Flight 5904 crashes near Ceyhan in southern Turkey, killing 6 people. 2001 NASA launches the 2001 Mars Odyssey orbiter. Its mission is provide information on the morphology and mapping the levels of elements across the entire Martian surface. 2003 Iraq War. U.S. troops capture Baghdad. Saddam Hussein's Ba'athist regime falls 2 days later. 2009 Former Peruvian President Alberto Fujimori is sentenced to 25 years in prison for ordering killings and kidnappings by security forces. 2009 Mass protests begin across Moldova under the belief that results from the parliamentary election are fraudulent. 2017 A man deliberately drives a hijacked truck into a crowd of people in Stockholm, Sweden, killing 5 people and injuring 15 others. 2017 U.S. President Donald Trump orders the 2017 Shayrat missile strike against Syria in retaliation for the Khan Shaykhun chemical attack. 2018 Former Brazilian President, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, is arrested for corruption by determination of Judge Sergio Moro, from the car wash operation. Lula stayed imprisoned for 580 days, after being released by the Brazilian Supreme Court. 2018 Syria launches the Douma chemical attack during the Eastern Ghouta offensive of the Syrian civil war. 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. China ends its lockdown in Wuhan. 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. Acting Secretary of the Navy Thomas Maudley resigns for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic on USS Theodore Roosevelt and the dismissal of Brett Crozier. 2021 COVID-19 pandemic. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announces that the SARS-CoV-2 alpha variant has become the dominant strain of COVID-19 in the United States. 2022 Ketanji Brown Jackson is confirmed for the Supreme Court of the United States, becoming the first black female justice. Make your history today. Let me know in the comment below. Thanks for watching.